Okay, everyone is starting to filter in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I think people are joining us from all over. I am Maureen Supley, and I am with Niagara College Canada, and I'm actually in Calgary, Alberta, so quite far into the west. It's a dark and stormy here tonight, so I apologize if you hear any thunder. And as we get started, I would just like to welcome Frederick Hubler, who will be giving our opening remarks.
Thank you, Maureen. My name is Friedrich Hubler. I'm the head of the UNESCO-UNEVOC International Center for Tibet. Good morning and good afternoon from me too, and welcome to this first session of a new BILT webinar series called Going Clean, Tibet and the Green Energy Transition. This new series is part of the BILT project, which is a collaborative effort implemented by UNESCO-UNEVOC with the support of the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training in Germany and funded by the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research. We're also collaborating with Niagara College from Canada in implementing this webinar series. As we all know, the transition to green energy is a necessity for our planet to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to combat climate change. Because of this, the global commitment to a green economy and society has been anchored in the Sustainable Development Goals since 2015. Moving to renewable energy sources reduces our dependence on fossil fuels, it supports innovation, and it creates new green jobs. UNESCO and UNEVOC share the view that we must, and here I'm going to use the title of this webinar series, Go Clean and Transition to Green Energy. The promotion of green skills among Tibet students and apprentices, teachers and trainers, leaders and managers, and in the labor force is therefore at the heart of the mission of UNESCO-UNEVOC. We will hear more about this in the webinar today, and we anticipate a high level of engagement and peer learning. We also hope that this event will spark new collaborations that will further support Tibet initiatives in the clean energy sector. Your interest in this webinar and the BILT project is greatly appreciated, and we thank you for your time and participation. And with that, I'm handing back to Maureen Supley from Niagara College, who will moderate today's webinar. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you so much. And welcome to everyone again. Thank you so much for joining us. I will get started right away. We have a very full agenda today, and I would like to get started. I'll just share my screen so you can go through a couple housekeeping items. Just let me get that. Okay. So, as Friedrich said, this is part of the Learning Lab series, and this is webinar 1, Preparing the Labor Force, Future Skills Identification, Reskilling, Upskilling, and Development of Core Competencies. So for today's webinar, it will be recorded, and we would like for you to ask any questions in the Q&A box. You'll see that on the bottom of your screen. There's a little Q&A box in there. And I will be monitoring the questions throughout, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end. If you wanted to chat, and you can please put that in the chat box, but any questions just to keep things organized, please put in the Q&A. If you needed closed captioning, that's also available with a little CC button at the bottom there, and you can do closed captioning should that be something that you would like or require. This is our agenda for today. We are currently doing the welcome and introduction, and then we will have some international perspectives, national models discussion. We'll have a roundtable discussion with our subject matter experts, a presentation on working toward implementation, innovative practices, and then a question and answer session and closing remarks. So I would like to get started with welcoming our wonderful panelists today, and I would like to thank them very much for joining us. We're absolutely thrilled to have such a wonderful lineup of speakers, and I'm very excited to learn with you and from them. So first, we have Kenneth, and she is joining us from UNESCO-UNEVOC. She is the program officer and team leader for the SDGs and Greening TVET with the UNESCO-UNEVOC office, and she resides in Bonn, Germany. Gabriela Prata-Diaz is the head of the Business Models and Finance at the UNEP Copenhagen Climate Center and is the acting head at the Copenhagen Center on Energy Efficiency. Ha-Gyung Chung is a technical officer at the Skills and Employability Branch Employment Policy, Job Creation and Livelihoods Department with the International Labour Organization, or ILO, in Geneva, Switzerland. Tobias Mayer is a researcher in the Department of Qualifications, Occupational Integration and Employment at the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training in Bonn, or also known as BIB. But that's not all. We also have three more wonderful speakers. We have Lalitha Maniam, and she is the Deputy Director, Job Skills Insights at Skills Future Singapore. Maribel Illig is the Managing Director and the Head of Vocational Training Center at the Chamber of Skilled Crafts in Germany. And Presha Ransarup was going to join us today, but instead we have her colleague Victoria, who will be presenting from South Africa today. And apologies, Victoria, I don't have your picture up there, but we'll see your lovely face later. Okay. So to begin today, we are just going to do a quick poll from the audience. So you can use your phone to scan the QR code and go into the Mentimeter poll. And it's a question about what skill do you think will be most crucial for the clean energy workforce in the next decade? And if the QR code doesn't work for you, or you don't have your phone or don't want to use your phone, one of my colleagues will be putting the link to that also in the chat, and you can click on the link and then go to the question there. So I will pause and go to that screen and we can see some of those results. And they're starting to come in already. That's great. You should be able to put in two skills, even though I just said one, but you should be able to put in two skills there. So you can put in what you think would be the most crucial for the clean energy workforce in the next decade. And it'll be so interesting to see the parallels between these responses and those that we get from our very knowledgeable speakers. Okay, that's wonderful. Keep putting those in. And we will be able to share those results later on. And also we'll be able to publish this little word cloud on the BILT website as well. So thank you for your contribution. Keep going with those. And just for the sake of time, and so we get to hear from all of our wonderful speakers today, I'm just going to move on to our first group of speakers. So up first we have we have Kenneth Barrientos from UNESCO-UNEVOC. So Kenneth, if you are ready, please do take it away.
Thank you, Maureen. Let me share my slides so that we can. All right, can you see my screen?
We can, yes. Did you, perfect. It's now in full screen mode.
All right.
Wonderful.
Thanks a lot, Maureen, and good morning, everyone. So I'm Ken Barrientos from UNESCO-UNEVOC, currently coordinating the work on greening TVET and SDGs. And so for this session, there are two questions that have been raised by our moderator, and I understood this would be the question for this set of panel session. And I just want to share the perspective on the opportunities in skilling, reskilling, and upskilling for the green energy transition. So as you can see, I have deleted the challenges because I think let's shake things a little bit and focus on the opportunities. And this is because we are quite aware that the path to clean energy transition is already a long, hard, and is not, of course, without challenges. So by itself, this issue gives us a lot of challenges to navigate. And when we think about the green economy transition path, we associate this with the need to decarbonize the economy. And one of the ways is to, of course, use clean and more energy efficient measures. And within these measures, we talk about the need to have more resource intensive processes, extracting materials from the earth, the process of extracting mineral resources, usually from countries that are already fragile or not always in the right or without the right governance structures. And of course, all these resources need to find their way to be distributed across the supply chain. And so this gives us the opportunity to design an integrated skills agenda. So knowing all this, TVET is at this path of designing an integrated skills agenda that looks at several issues. For example, the climate change, social cohesion, peace building, and economic growth. And these issues are all interconnected and they require an integrated solution. And as you can see in the screen, we can appreciate that there are guidance mechanisms that are in place. And these guidance mechanisms have been developed, keeping in mind that there are important principles and strategies that we need to embed in the education and training systems. And this is to ensure that the learning process is action-oriented, that they are quality assured, that they are based, education and training is based on the principles of justice and are also relevant for the learners as individuals, and of course, relevant for the market, for the employers, for industries as the drivers of growth. Now the questions, what to learn, how to learn, and where to learn, these are all critical questions that we have to ask ourselves as educators, as people with decision-making capacities. So what to learn, how to learn, and where to learn are discussed in this guidance document that you can see on the screen. So this has been published by UNESCO, called the Greening Curriculum Guidance. And this came out just last month. And this is in an attempt to provide guidance to member states within the framework of the Greening Education Partnership of UNESCO, to be able to integrate climate change issues across all subjects, and to impart not only the technical skills that are needed, but also to harness the cognitive, social, and emotional learning. So these are very critical because we know that the path to a clean and green transition does not rely on technical skills, but also on key important transversal skills that each learner must of course learn. And then the next opportunity that we are presented is the opportunity to design and implement curriculum, training, and qualifications. So again, in this process, we are presented with this opportunity to emphasize the need for key sustainability competencies. And UNESCO, again, and I'm sharing the link at the bottom of the slide, there are key 8 competencies that have been identified in this resource of UNESCO for advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. And these, of course, this material is one of those resources that provides information and knowledge on how we can integrate the global vision for development for example, through education, which is SDG 4, through decent work and economic growth, which is SDG 8, sustainable energy, SDG 9, and climate action, SDG 13. So as you can see, a long list of different types of competencies, for example, systems competencies, which is basically just the ability to recognize and understand relationships, analyze complex systems. Anticipatory competency, so this refers to the ability to understand and evaluate multiple futures, create one's vision for the future, or apply precautionary principles. Critical thinking competencies, self-awareness competencies, integrated problem-solving competencies. So all these competencies are very critical and important to accompany learning technical skills so that learners would have that agency and the possibilities to act on their cognitive, social-emotional learning contexts. And so these two opportunities, first designing an integrated skills agenda and also designing and implementing curriculum training and qualifications, these are all important opportunities that we must seize. And of course, we have to see to it that the challenges that come along with these opportunities are, of course, addressed. Now, very quickly, the second question, how can global, regional, and national Tibet policies address the challenges effectively? And so I just have to come up with a list here based on one of the resources that we have produced in 2021, which is about the solar energy demands, a discussion paper. So we need to boost these opportunities, and as Tibet, part of the Tibet community, we have all this opportunity to enable policies that support skills development with lifelong learning perspective, closely link market needs with occupation standards and training curriculum development. Of course, ensure that the training of trainers and instructor are in place so that they could update the knowledge and skills which are critical for upskilling and reskilling of the learners and workforce. Also establish mechanisms for better quality assurance and build capacities of institutions. And so towards this end, we can promote and establish better capacities and better understanding of those who are in Tibet sector, including in higher education, and how to respond, accelerate the response, and to be able to provide the foundation to be to develop the skills. And I will show you just this resource that we have. It is forthcoming. We are co-publishing this with CEDEFOC, and this is a guidance for Tibet institutions, a small effort for us to provide this opportunity to build capacities and to support them in implementing a green education and training agenda that integrates all these issues, that enable institutional actors and players, and hopefully we can discuss this later when we elaborate during the discussion. Thank you, Maureen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kenny. I like how you transitioned it from challenges to opportunities. That's a wonderful way to frame that. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, please do put them in the Q&A, which is down at the bottom there, and we will be going through those at the end. And so everyone can have an opportunity to ask questions at the end, but I'll be collecting them throughout. And our next speaker, we are delighted to have join us, is Hye Gayung Chung, and I believe she was able to join. I hope she's here. And hi, Hye, if you are here, would you mind just sharing your presentation? There you are. Wonderful. Hello.
I'm here. Yeah, but I'm connected with my phone as I had an issue with my laptop. So would you mind sharing the slides as I shared it with your colleagues? Thank you.
Yes.
My apologies for that.
That's no problem. Just give me 1 second and I will find that for you. Did you want to start? And then did you want to just give a few words? Oh, look at that.
Sure.
Someone did it for me. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, apologies for that. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hye Gayung Chung. I work as a technical officer and a focal point on skills for green jobs at the ILO headquarters in Geneva. Next slide, please. It's a great pleasure to actually share what the ILO does when it comes to identifying skills for green transition and how we make an approach on the ground. So maybe many of you already know about this global report, which was produced in 2019 called Skills for a Greener Future, a global review. We produced a global projection on energy sustainability scenario and circular economy scenario by 2030, looking at the employment effects by skills, occupations, and gender. And we also included 32 country case studies on what are the skills gaps when it comes to skills for green jobs, and what are the policy areas that needs to be improved, and etc. So as you can see in this projection, in both scenarios, the job creation will outpace job destruction. However, what's the meaningful kind of implication from this scenario is that although a majority of jobs that will be at risk of destruction will be able to be observed into newly created jobs with reskilling and upskilling into the same occupation, into the growing industry in the same country. However, there are jobs that are at risk of losing if there isn't a massive reskilling efforts for the occupations that are at risk of destruction, such as we know, there's a transition for coal mining. So the coal miners will need massive reskilling so that they would need to move into the occupations that are growing in the context of green transition. So actually this projection was done by input and output modeling, and there are more guidance notes on the methods, how we use LFS data, how we use the employment projection to plug in the occupations information to obtain more information on skills, needs, and etc. Next slide, please. And the projection actually also shows how the global green transition would not be gender neutral. As you can see, the more job creation and more job destruction will be happening at the male dominant occupations. This means that the current occupational stereotypes are likely to persist by 2030 unless there is a targeted measure that are taken for women so that women can take up more opportunities that are happening at in the context of green transition. Next slide, please. And also we looked at what are the impact by skill level. As you can see, all the occupations will change in one way or another in the context of green transition, whether it's low skilled, medium skilled, and high skilled. And as you can see in the middle, the most turnover will be actually happening at the medium skilled occupations, meaning that it has a great implication for technical vocation education training, the TBET level. However, that doesn't mean that higher skilled occupation, the higher tertiary level, university level education is not important. It is indeed, of course, important. It's where there would be lots of R&Ds and innovations driven at this high skilled occupations. But we just wanted to emphasize that TVET, it's where technicians who will actually run the groundworks in the sector, in the workplaces, would be crucial in the context of green transition. Next slide, please. So that was like a projection done by the ILO with a quantitative method. And we're actually currently updating that projection, looking at not only green transition, but also digital scenario with in collaboration with Cambridge Econometrics. And we'll be able to share some of the results at the COP29 this year. We also have a qualitative approach, rather at a sectoral level. It's called Skills for Productivity, Environment, and Economic Diversification, the SPEED. So what it comes with SPEED is that at the startup phase, the countries would choose their priority sectors in line with their NDCs and their environment and climate policies. And then once the sector choice is made, there's an analysis diagnostic phase looking at profiling of the sectors. What's the implication for employment? Does really skills matter for greening the sector and for the growth of the sector? So we use the existing data based on desk research. But if the data is not available, we also conduct survey of employers, what are the demand in the labor market in the context of green transition, and also do the supply side survey. And based on that synthesis of the analysis and the data, there's a diagnostics that what are the skills that gap that needs to be filled out in the country, how the education and training systems are working to meet the needs of the labor market and demand. So we come up with a conclusion and recommendation based on the validation of the stakeholders. And then there's a implementation phase where at one side there will be improvements, and there will be an effort to improve the system level issues. At the same time, we also support the countries to address the TVET level issues when it comes to greening. And throughout that process, social dialogue, stakeholder engagement, and participatory process is driven throughout the whole process, so that all the diagnostics, all the recommendations and conclusions do not end being just one document, but owned by the stakeholders to be able to implement in their implementation phase. Next slide, please. So from the ILO's point of view, why we do skills anticipation is to know the better what are the future skills needs in the context of green transition, right? And that has to be the data and the information that's gathered through skills anticipation process has to be translated into meaningful policies, and also adapting the TVET level curricula. So the ILO has come up with a greening TVET and skills development tool, which of course we also built on the UNESCO's guide, looking at how we can design the competency standard, or depending on your country, occupational standard, tuned to the green jobs needs in the labor market, and how that translates into curriculum development and training delivery, and also the assessment. And as we know that the learning environment is important, that it has to raise the environmental awareness and conducive for that. So we also have a section how we can green the physical campus. And as also Ken already mentioned, the capacity of teachers and trainers are important. So we also have a section on how we can improve the professional development of teachers and in-company trainers. And when it comes to green transition, and of course, when it comes to TVET curriculum development, engaging with enterprises are important, because they know what are the skills needs are in the labor market, and they can signal well how the curriculum and how the education and training provision should be adapted. And at the same time, it's where the trainees and students will go and practice their practical skills that they acquire through work-based learning, including quality apprenticeship. We also have a section how we can kind of improve the informal economy through skilling for green transition, and how to make that into from piloting to the main system. So this guide really provides practical guidance tool for policymakers, social partners, employers, school leaders, teachers and trainers, and civil society. And we've been actually piloting in different countries so that it doesn't stay as in a digital library in different countries such as Zambia, Zimbabwe, Ghana, Cambodia, and etc. So meaning that the countries have taken their existing occupational standards to bring the green transition angle and adapt it with the green transition angle. So yeah, happy to share more about the piloting exercise. Next slide, please. And I think this comes to the end of my presentation, that we also have different kind of guide and tools on how to anticipate skills needs for green jobs, and different policy briefs on skills development for just transition. So feel free to check this out on our website. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you to Behind the Scenes for the slide clicking as well. That was wonderful to hear from you, Hai. And we will be moving on in our agenda to the national models discussion, and we have Tobias joining us from BIB. So Tobias Mayer, please take it away.
All right. Well, hello from my side. My name is Tobias Meyer from the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training. And as said, we are now talking about national models. And here, precisely, I want to talk about the CUBE project. It's an abbreviation for Qualifikations- und Berufsprojektion, which means qualification occupational projections. It is actually a cooperation project between us, the BIP, and the Federal Institute for Employment and the Institute for Economic Structure Research. And our goal is to give a long-term overview of the expected development of workforce demand and supply, broken down by qualifications and occupations. If I speak about occupations, I mean the occupation defined by the National Classification of Occupations. In the 3-digit level, we differentiate between 144 occupational groups. We do this on the supply side and on the demand side. Furthermore, we can show or differentiate the workforce supply by qualification levels, 4 levels, the unskilled, those with a VET certificate, those with an advanced VET certificate or bachelor degree, and then on the highest level, those with a master degree. And on the demand side, we have something well, equivalently, the requirement level, meaning we have tasks that can be, well, that are defined as helping tasks, mostly for people without vocational education and training, but they could also have one. Then we have skilled tasks, usually for persons with VET certificate. Then we have specialist tasks and highly complex tasks. And we are able to differentiate our occupational and requirement level demand between 63 industries. We do our model, we do a continuous monitoring. That means we renew our data every 2 years. We published first in 2010, and therefore we are able to see whether something in the actual behavior of the economy and the population changes, and we are able to to model these adaptations. And our aim is to inform politics and practice on an early stage about possible mismatches by occupational level. You find further information on cube-projekt.de and cube-data.de. The information there is also in English. Coming to the model, or more precisely said, to the model system, there are 3 mega trends, so to say, the 3 Ds, the demography, digitization, and the decarbonization. And we have 3 larger parts in our model system that can show or try to model those trends. First, if we look on the left side, the population forecast, we have our own population forecast. And of course, the population itself is very important to define the labor supply side and the amount of persons going into the educational system, getting trained in an occupation, and finally offering their abilities and on certain jobs in the occupation they have been trained for or in other occupations. But the population itself is also important for the demand for certain goods and services via the consumption structure of the households. And I heard it before in the ILO presentation that it was an input-output model, and actually we use also an metric input-output model for the economy side. So here the household consumption is important, but also the connection of Germany, the trade connection with foreign countries. And there also the amount of goods and prices of goods and services by sectors, and therefore we use the national accounts. What is rather new is our energy model. The energy model by the Institute for Economic Structure Research is not that new. They used it for quite a while to model CO2 emissions, but we were now able to link it to the economy via prices. And we know that we have a transition of the energy sector, meaning we have phase out of the coal industry and we receive less gas, and we try to install as much photovoltaic and wind power as we can. And this has a connection to the economy also via prices, because certain energy intensive goods are getting more expensive. Furthermore, we have taxes on CO2 emissions, which we expect to increase in the future. And this should actually change the behavior of the consumers, and therefore also change the behavior of occupations needed to bring the services to deliver the goods, to produce the goods, and all this. Our idea is that we have that we have a baseline projection. That means that we forecast the trends as we saw them in the past. We forecast them to the future, meaning that this will be a world that we can expect if we don't change our behavior from the past. And the upper right corner, you see a picture on it. If you look on the blue line, a reference scenario, that would, for example, be a baseline projection, and then we can model deviating behavior from it. And the difference is here shown a difference between the green and the blue line would be the effect of the deviating behavior on the economy or on the demand for certain occupations, for example. And on the lower left side, you see a result from our hydrogen scenario. Here we modeled how the world would look like if we are able to fulfill the goals of the national hydrogen strategy, meaning that we switch from gas to green hydrogen, which means that we have firstly to produce it, but also to import it. And this means that we need to renew our infrastructure. For example, we need construction workers, we need workers that build electrolyzers, and we need research and development. And you see that the largest total effect will be for the demand for skilled workers, but the relative largest effect will be for the specialist level and highly complex tasks, mainly due to planning, research, and developing. But due to the investments, we expect an overall positive impulse on the labor market. And this is it already from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tobias. That was wonderful. And Gabriella, we understand you have joined us. We're very happy to have you here. I'm not sure if you're able to share. I understand you're joining from your phone, so thank you for making that extra effort. But we should be able to have someone share your presentation with us, I believe. So Gabriella, if you are able to join and speak, we would love to hear from you.
Hi, good morning. I'm here. Finally. Sorry for this. Yeah, sorry for this. It was a bit challenging to join. I don't know. The IT was not in my favor this morning, but here I am using the old-fashioned way. So I'm on the phone. I don't actually have a presentation. So yeah. So I wonder. I mean. Not sure exactly what has been discussed so far. I just listened in for the last 3 to 4 minutes. But yeah, I'm happy to share any context from our end. Please let me know if this is what I would be supposed to do now.
Yes, absolutely. Please go ahead. We're discussing the national models, and but we are going back to previously where we were discussing the international perspectives on skilling, reskilling, upskilling, and identifying skills. So we would love to hear your perspective.
Okay, thank you. So Yeah, I mean, I would like to bring here the importance of the component on transition in regards to energy efficiency. Just highlighting that very often when we speak about energy transition, we are talking about supply, the supply side, supply of energy, and very much linked to renewables. And I just heard the last 2 minutes talking about hydrogen. So these are really big challenges, but we should also keep on looking into the other side of the flip side of the coin regarding energy efficiency, so taking care of the demand side. So it's important to still stress and highlight the opportunities that are around the implementation of energy efficiency, which according to the IEA, it could represent about 40% of the emissions reductions of the Paris Agreement if the proper policies are put in place around the world. So this is really not a minor issue. Energy efficiency should be considered. And from reading the meeting agenda, I suppose you also introduced this a topic around construction. So this is actually one of the biggest topics that is currently on the energy efficiency space. Why is this? Because cities will be a huge demander of energy in the future. It is expected that in 2050, about 70% of the world population will be based in cities, living in cities, and which corresponds to 70% of the emissions by 2050. And if we think about buildings, they represent about 30 to 40% of the energy demand around the world. So this is again stressing the importance of making the energy transition also on the buildings side. But the hope is that actually we can reduce about 90% of the emissions in cities if we triple the investment in the next 10 years. So by tripling the investment, we also see the consequence in terms of needs for jobs and skilled people that could also be linked to this energy transition in the construction, buildings and construction sector. So this is actually a critical pillar of this energy transition. And here we are talking about not only updating and advancing university curricula, we are talking about engineers, we are talking about architects and building designers, etc., but also the technical vocational education and training. And here it's very important to have skilled people that are able to do proper window installations, heat pump installations, and dimensioning and making them properly work, introduce building management systems, and make them function in a proper way. And of course, linking to solar energy and the installation of solar panels, and linking buildings also to the transport sector. So with the penetration of electric vehicles, the dialogue between the vehicle and the building, it's more and more of an issue. And here it can introduce another stream of skilled people needed around not only around electricians, properly trained electricians that could also make this connection between charging of a vehicle and charging of a home, and the dialogue between the home and the vehicle, or the building and the vehicle. But also the digitalization aspect of this. So skilled people around with digital skills that could actually develop the systems that we could use on our daily basis regarding the management not only of the energy system in our buildings and homes, but also their relationship with the connected vehicles. And then if we broaden it again back to the city level, we have heard of the opportunities around smart cities, introduction of smart cities. This means having sensors spread out in many places and using the IT information to better manage the city. And we can, just to provide a few examples, we can, while we do some retrofitting, for example, of street lighting, using a more efficient street lighting systems, also use some sensors to monitor traffic, for example, and do better management of cities in specific places. But all in all, so we've mentioned the need for updating the curricula, not only at university level, but at vocational training level as well. But another component which is quite important, and from our work we have seen in several places, is the need for proper policy design and implementation, so that a demand is created for this type of jobs. So the role of governments is quite critical here to design the market, to create the market, because the market itself cannot just run independently, and also make sure that these policies are actually well implemented and monitored. And here we are talking about, for example, the implementation of ambitious building codes, both for retrofitting of buildings, but also for new buildings. The introduction of minimum energy performance standards for appliances and energy using products. And here we are talking about heat pumps, for example, that I've mentioned before, but also air conditioners, lighting, refrigerators, and then all other energy using equipment of buildings and homes. So these are critical pieces that should be part of the whole ecosystem, so that we make sure that there is a proper implementation. So there is a context, which is the policy, proper policy design and implementation, and then the development of the needed skills and capacities, so that we can actually deliver on the implementation of these policies. And here, just maybe a last few words. These are also opportunities for the development of female opportunities in this system. So in order to be able to train and to create jobs also for female constituencies in countries around the world, so that we can actually deliver on the just energy transition. So basically, this is how we see that. So not only at national level with the proper design and implementation of policies, but also at the city level, again, with the design and of policies and its implementation, but then the need to deliver on the skills that will be able to implement all these opportunities. Yeah, and here again, the importance of building and construction workers, window installers, heat pump installers, electricians, pumpers, and etc. So this is and the digital skills as well. So I think this was the main messages as a starting point, but feel free to ask questions, or I could continue as you prefer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gabriela. We're inviting people to put questions in the Q&A, so we'll have some time at the end for questions. And we thank you so much for sharing your information and for joining us and making the effort to join us over the phone. And thank you so much. Okay, and before we move into our roundtable discussion, we have a audience poll. I'll just pull that up for you. And some of you have already answered, some keen people have already answered, so thank you so much for doing that. But I will just share that poll. And again, you can just use the QR code on your phone, or so you can just scan the QR code with your phone as soon as I share it here, and you can go into the Mentimeter and answer. It is a multiple choice question this time. There we are. Okay, so the question this time is, does your country or region have a strategy for identifying and addressing future skills in the green energy sector? So this QR at the bottom here, you can scan and it should take you right to the polling page. And if you don't have that, then one of my colleagues should be putting the link in the chat as well. I will pull that up. Oh, wonderful. Many people are here. Okay. So it looks like several people are answering yes, you do have a strategy, and that's wonderful. And many people are also on their way. So that's great news. And we're so glad that all of you are here to learn with us and share with us. So thank you so much. So this will be open for the next little while, so please do continue to answer. And we will move along with our roundtable discussion. So the roundtable will involve the 5 speakers from whom you just heard. So Ken, Gabriella, Hai, Tobias, and Lalitha. And I'll put the first question up for everyone, just so you can see that. And I will share my screen once again. Okay. So the first question that we would like for our panelists is, what are the key challenges or opportunities in reskilling and upskilling the existing workforce for the clean energy transition? And how can TVET policies address these changes effectively? So we'll just have probably about 10 minutes for this roundtable discussion. So I'll probably interrupt and make sure that everyone gets a chance to give their opinions and ideas should they wish. So Kenneth, if you don't mind, I'd love to start with you since you led us off. If you could lead us off on the roundtable discussion. So the key challenges and opportunities in reskilling and upskilling. So I will take this down so I'm not blocking you when you're speaking, and you should be, everyone should be up there. Wonderful.
Thanks, Maureen. I think I tried to address this in through the slides that I shared earlier, and there I tried to emphasize the need to develop skills, an integrated skills agenda, because as we know that developing skills for one job sector or an occupation is not enough. We see a lot of changes happening whereby people are losing jobs because they are working in sectors that are declining, when certain companies or enterprise, they move to the direction to become more green or to subscribe into greener practices. Of course, there are changes in their profiles and the job tasks that these workers perform. So the skills that need to be learned should be able to make individuals transfer or move, have as much as possible great mobility across different jobs and across different sectors. And as I said in the earlier intervention, this is now an opportunity for us to design an integrated skill strategy that looks into learners as lifelong learners and develop their skills within a lifelong learning perspective. And of course, through this process, UNESCO has been highlighting opportunities to build foundation skills even from the very beginning, at the very primary stage of general education, with the hope that this will also be able to be continued as they move on to secondary, to tertiary, to TVET level education, and even through upskilling and reskilling. So look at the skill strategies within a lifelong learning perspective, and also boost the opportunity for curriculum training and qualifications to be developed in such a way that address these critical sustainability competencies, transversal skills, as well as technical skills. And why we say this is an opportunity, because we see that in many countries this is not happening. And of course, this is preventing them from responding, accelerating the solutions that are possible and are available for them. And yeah, these are all very, very good opportunities for us to move into the direction and support the green transition through well-equipped, well-trained, and quality-assured education and training systems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hi, I'm wondering if you could give an ILO perspective on the key challenges of upskilling and reskilling. I know you spoke a little bit about those in your presentation. If you could can just give a few thoughts on that for our roundtable.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think when it comes to skilling and upskilling, of course, the skills anticipation and knowing what are the skills that are needed for existing workforce is one of the key challenges. Another important aspect is raising awareness of the workforce about the needs of reskilling and upskilling in the context of clean energy transition, and that actually can be helped by the engagement of trade unions and social partners to tackle that challenges. And also another issue is that for the workforce, the needs of knowing what's their transition pathway, having the career guidance and counseling, so that the reskilling and upskilling efforts becomes meaningful for the workforce in the clean energy transition would be another important aspect to be considered. And so in the question how then TVET policies could address these challenges more effectively is that still at the moment there's a lack of systemic and coordinated process that are lacking in the greening TVET, and there's a bit of a disconnection between TVET to the world of work, and this can be addressed with a more broader engagement with relevant.
Oh, I think we may have lost audio with Hai. Are you there, Hai? Oh, there, just muted.
Can you hear me?
We can now, yes, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know where I was cut off, but
only for a few seconds, I think, until it was maybe, I don't even know that we missed anything, but it just cut off right at the end of what you were saying.
Okay, all right. So yeah, that was yeah. And I think when it comes to TVET, really the supply side inadequacy is important to be addressed. Availability of those important learning and teaching materials and training of teachers and trainers, and collaboration with employers are key to address that issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to move actually to Lalitha Manima, sorry Lalitha, and she will give her perspective as well from Skills Future in Singapore, and this will be an international perspective and also a national model. So Lalitha, if you wouldn't mind, please take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Maureen. Let me just pull out my presentation. Okay, I'm sure it's visible. Is it visible to all of you?
Yes,
okay,
thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, very warm welcome. I'm Lalitha from Skills Future Singapore. What we do here is we are a national skills authority under the Ministry of Education. I'll give you a broad overview of how we identify skills and enable upskilling and reskilling before I zoom in into how we do it for the green economy. Okay, so from our humble beginnings of Skills Future Singapore, we started off in our first space, whereby we learn to survive, and then we moved on to learning to compete, and then now we are, and then we moved on to lifelong learning and promoting lifelong learning for a good 10 to 13 years. Now we are in the fourth phase, whereby we are looking towards what is our next bound for Skills Future in order to build skills within different economies. And the key focus for this year and onwards is a little bit more about how what we plan to reskill and upskill, especially mid-career workers. Yeah. Okay. So in order to strengthen this skills ecosystem, we focus on three main stakeholders and partners. One is individuals. We want to make them independent of making well-informed choices in education and training, especially when it comes to building their careers. And also for enterprises to recognize and be able to support the development of the workforce in terms of skills and mastery. And to also look at who are the ones providing the training, which is the training providers as well as trainers, so that we have an integrated high-quality system of education and training in order to meet the needs of the society. Okay, for individuals, of course, there are resources and information to help them make well-informed choices, and also funding that is made available to them. So this is made in the form of like Skills Future credit, top-ups, different train and place programs for mid-careerists, some advisory given on what type of skills you need to equip yourself with, and the necessary training, and upgrading. And we're also looking at upgrading this thing called My Skills Future portal, which is a repository of all the courses that is available now and for you to upgrade. Okay, from the enterprises side, we also want to bring in a greater involvement of enterprises. And then this can be done in the form, again, in the form of funding through Skills Future Enterprise Credits, this Queen Bee strategy, whereby we engage enterprises to come in to be part of the capability development. And then we have work study programs, and we also have this National Center for Workplace Training. And we have this enhanced training support package, which is applicable for mid-careerists. Okay, so who are the ones involved in this education and training? So in terms of engaging training providers, the key ones are our private training providers. We have autonomous universities, which are a mix of government as well as public. They are called Institutes of Higher Learning. And then we have this third pillar, which is called, which are enterprises. So these are enterprises which have a niche in terms of best in class, and they have this global standing. So some examples are like your Bosch, Rexroth, Microsoft, and Apple. These companies, these enterprises are brought on board in order to bring in best in class training in niche areas. Okay, so how do we actually use a data-driven approach to articulate, aggregate, and activate skills? This is done by skills identification, whereby we establish a common language. We have this thing called a skills framework. We have currently we have 35 frameworks for 35 sectors. And then we look at how each and every one is able to identify a common skills language. Okay, and then from here, we help to develop a national job skills intelligence database, whereby all the skills are captured in this large repository. Okay, and then having these repositories is also important that it's made known to the different stakeholders as to what are these skills, and we need to communicate them to the different stakeholders so that they are also aware of what are trending, what are some of the priority areas that we are looking at, what are some of the areas they need to quickly upskill themselves in. Okay, and this is done through the support of like job transformation and skills planning, as well as training curation with our partners like the other government agencies. And then the key is once all these skills have been identified, there is need to activate the skills to support the mobilization of training partners, enterprises, and industry players to drive the skills first talent attraction and development strategies. It is very important to know how to be able to upskill or reskill in these priority areas that we have identified. And then what kind of support is available in terms of going for this training? Could it be support from your enterprises or even funding support that is given to them in order to address their skills gaps? Okay, and then in the end, we also monitor the utilization of these skills at the workplace and look at closing the skills gap of the national workforce. So in a nutshell, data-driven insights are key in our skills ecosystem to identify skills and enable upskilling and reskilling. Okay, so this is actually how we have the common skills language, which is the 35 skills framework, which I mentioned earlier. And then what is given here is we have a comprehensive data set for public to use. So we have job role title, job role description, the sector, critical work functions, key tasks, and as well as skills relevant to this job role for every skills framework for every sector. Okay, so this is so that stakeholders within the sector are aware that these job roles exist. And if these job roles are there, what skills are required? Okay, okay, so apart from that, we also open the skills description, proficiency level, knowledge and ability to the different stakeholders so that they are also well informed. Okay, so the key about having this skills repository is not in keeping it in a common platform, it's to be able to signpost to them. So signposting to the public, to the enterprises, to employers, to training providers, or even policymakers, we actually do it through various platforms like okay, so we have the skills future, skills insights for training and adult educators. We also have it for the I4.0 economy. This is done on a regular basis, say for example, quarterly. On a quarterly basis, we actually send out such signaling, such comms, so that everyone is aware of what's going on, what are skills trending, and what are some of the schemes that is available to support your skills upgrading. Okay, so apart from those annual quarterly publications, we also have an annual report to inform individuals, enterprises, and partners in the continuous education and training arena on latest trends and insights. Okay, you can actually take a look at it in this in the link shown in this slide when the organizers later disseminate the slides to the audience. Okay, so what is key in driving this data-driven approach, being responsible and resilient skills ecosystem, is to look at what kind of big data needs to go in. So this could be in the form of job posting data or even training supply and consumption data. And the analysis, the job skills analytics that goes into it, and some research, all this goes into our job skills data lake in order to be able to produce data resources for stakeholders to use. And there are also tools for stakeholders. For example, there's skills extraction algorithm, job skills training recommender, and course recommender for stakeholders to use to be able to make better informed decisions. Okay, and we also have briefs, reports, and webinars to be able to do this. Okay, so all this high level of coordination at the sectoral, local, regional, and national level is to be able to strengthen the nexus between skills supply and skills demand, which I think if you've been following all the earlier speakers, there's a greater emphasis on how to make your skills demand meet your skills supply. And this can also only be done if all the stakeholders like government agencies, enterprises, policymakers, individuals, training providers, as well as companies are able to work together to strengthen this nexus. Okay. Okay. So now how we have done it, how we have brought the skills demand and supply together in the green arena is through a green skills plan to drive end-to-end processes from establishing 3 priorities to successful implementation. Okay, this is a government project that has been done together with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, whereby we set out a green skills plan, which looks at 5 key areas for both the energy as well as sustainability reporting and assurance sectors. So what are the 5 key areas? One is looking at priority setting. So each one of these sectors actually look at some of the priorities that is set up in terms of green skills development for their sector. And then they go on to understanding the profile of the growth, job roles, what are changing job content, and what is the skills composition of this new roles within the green space, as well as existing roles. And then they also do a manpower needs and gap analysis, whereby they assess the current and projected demand for priority job roles. And they take current supply in meeting demand and diagnose these gaps. Okay, the 4th area is they come up with a support plan to ensure that training supply remains relevant, sufficient, and timely to meet the skills that has been identified. And of course, the 5th pillar is a bit more maintenance, whereby you monitor how the skills gap is being closed, and then whether certain adjustments have to be made. Okay, so Skills Future Singapore has also worked with partners and training providers to curate about 900 plus programs, courses designed for different skills proficiency. So you can look here in this slide that we have catered for green verticals like carbon services, sustainable tourism, and also horizontals like green procurement or even smart technology. Okay, so apart from Green Skills Plan, we also work with Workforce Singapore, which is another government agency, in coming up with job transformation maps, which provide job-level insights on impact of technology and workforce, which needs to drive the need for job redesign and reskilling. So what does this transformation map do? It will highlight like growth roles and emerging skills in the next 3 to 5 years. And then what are some of the possible jobs and skills intervention that's needed? And then it suggests recommended policy and training solutions. So far, we have launched about 17 jobs transformation maps for about, so that's about 17 sectors in all. Yeah. Okay, so as I mentioned in my earlier slides, the key in 2024 is focusing on reskilling mid-careerists, and then what kind of funding support that's available to them and other resources to support them in their skills development journey. So all the resources are listed here. You can take a look at it later. Okay. And then in order to have this robust ecosystem, right, we are looking at launching a center to focus on the future of skills, which looks at 3 main areas. One is capability transfer of our partners, to build the capability of our existing partners, and to conduct research in areas of skills, talents, and jobs in the economy. And then we are also looking at international collaboration to collaborate on research and training initiatives with global partners. Yeah. Okay, with this, I come to my concluding slide, whereby we look at what are some of the critical components of a data-driven, responsive, and resilient skills ecosystem in order to look at policy priorities, joint ownership of job skills demand and supply. We also look at upskilling the quality of training providers, sustainable funding, enhancing the capabilities, as well as trust among all the various stakeholders. And there's a little bit of investment in research and innovation. And of course, another key to make this ecosystem a success is the tripartite partnership between the government, the enterprises, as well as individuals. Yeah, thank you. And I've come to the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. We only have about 15 minutes left, but I would really like to move on. We have 2 more speakers, and our next speaker is Dr. Maribel Illig, and she is from the Chamber of Skilled Crafts in Germany. And Maribel, when you are ready, we would love to hear from you. Ready when you are.
Yes, I'm sorry. I had some issues here with the internet connection, but now I'm here. Thank you so much, Maureen. I'm going to share my presentation now. Could you see it well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So, yes, my name is Maribel Illig. I'm head of a vocational training center here in Germany, and I would like to give you a very quick overview of a practical implementation of the green transition in training formats, like we do it in Germany. I'm talking about the craft sector here in Germany, which is very important in order to enable the green transition. So what we have done is we have asked ourselves the question is what are our typical personas that we have in Germany in the skilled craft sector that we need to understand in order to provide a very good training. And I would like to introduce you to the 3 personas that we have identified. On the left side, you will find Nele. She is 17 years old and she is an apprentice in a company that is 100 years old with 15 employees. And she is an apprentice in the new profession, electronics technician for building system integration. This is a new occupation that we have in Germany that was really developed in order to understand the interface between electronics and the whole heating, ventilation, and air conditioning profession, because everything in smart home and smart building context, these 2 professions are actually intervene nowadays. And the company that Nele is working in offers a complete solution for electrical and HVAC problems. So they are actually installing smart homes and smart buildings. In the middle, we have another persona that is Thomas. Thomas is 40 years old, and he is an experienced craftsman. He has got 20 years of in his profession, and he is a trained heating installer. And he is working in a small company with 5 employees. And this business where Thomas is working in has been taken over by the son of the previous owner of the business or the company. And the son is Mark, and he is 33 years old. And the Mark has got a double master certificate. So Mark, the new owner or the new boss of this company where Thomas is working in, Mark is very into the green transition and the energy transition, and he wants Thomas to install heat pumps now. But Thomas actually is specialized in gas and oil heating system, because this is actually what he was trained in. On the right-hand side, we have got Michael. Michael is 58 years old, and he is a master electrician specialized in energy and building technology. That was, or that is the occupation that we have mostly when we are talking about electricians in Germany. That is like the predecessor to the specialization that Nele is now working in or an apprentice in. And he has additional qualities. He is a business administrator in craftsmanship. He is working in a company that is rather big with 200 employees. That is pretty big for us in Germany in the craft sector. And he grew up with a company. He works as a project manager. He's very proud of his company and he loves his profession, and he's very, very into technologies. So these are the 3 personas which are pretty typical that we have here in Germany. And now we are looking into is what kind of training they need and how we have to treat these personas differently. So when we look at Nele, Nele is like the future that is going on, but we have to provide them with skills. And my speakers like Gabriella and Kenneth, they have emphasized the general framework of how we're talking. And Nele actually has this training with interdisciplinary interface knowledge, which is very important. IT skills is very important. We heard that before. She has a holistic training. She's not thinking in silos of different disciplines and subjects. And what is very, very important, her training is action-orientated and case-orientated. So Nele is already learning the skills that are, apart from the technical knowledge, that is very important, the skills that are very important in our opinion in order to manage the green transition, that is communication skills, so that is team-orientated working, project managing, knowledge about energy management and sustainability awareness. So this is all part of the training that we have now, which is state of the art at the moment in the electricity techniques. So what we, as additionally to this training that we are giving, what for us as a vocational training center is very important, that we have to assure Nele that what she is doing is a great way to build up her knowledge for the future, because the road is open for whatever she wants to do. If she wants to study later, if she wants to own her own business, whatever it is, the trainings that the apprenticeship that she has picked up is really a great start into the world of profession. And then we have in the middle Thomas. Thomas is for us a very typical man. He is 40 years old. So he has to work another 27 years around that. And it is very important, the reskilling of Thomas has to be successful in order to make the energy transition successful in Germany as well. So Thomas is very good in installing heat and oil energy sources, and he has to do complete reskilling. He needs like a heat pumped training according to the latest norms, refrigeration certificating course, maybe an HVAC service technician course. And he has to, well, we have to develop his communication skills, because successfully advising and selling the energy transition to the customer is not very easy. But the thing is Thomas has been trained in a different way than Nele. He is thinking in different disciplines and subjects. And for him, the oil and gas energy source is nice. This is something where he is feeling comfortable. So we, as a vocational training center, we have the need to make him understand that nothing much has changed except the energy source, and that this is just an enhancement building on his skills that he already has. So his experience that he has is not obsolete, but it is very important in order to make him an expert in the future. And in our opinion, we also have to address his boss, Mark, the new boss, because maybe Mark needs also support here in order to help Thomas with the transition. And I think this is very important, because we are not, we cannot afford to lose such skilled crafts workers or craftsmen as Thomas. And it is very important to help them with the transition into the, I would call a new world, but into the energy transition. And then we have, lastly, on the left, on the right side, I'm sorry, we have got Michael. And Michael is already wonderful, because he is interested in new technology, and he needs an upskilling. So we have to provide professional conferences on updates in norms and standards, and special seminars like data security in networked buildings or project managing courses. So this is a whole different thing. It is, we have also have to provide these, yes, higher and very specialized platforms or seminars where Michael can get his upskilling from. So this was a very, very short introduction to how these different personas and the different skilling that we need is making an entrance in the different trainings that we provide in our vocational training center. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maribel. I liked the personas and the faces. They remind me of students from previous years, although I know they're not real people, that you can identify with each of them. So thank you very much. And last but certainly not least, we have Victoria. And Victoria, I welcome you to share your screen. And we only have about 5 minutes left, so perhaps we'll go a few minutes over into questions. And if you do have questions, please do put them in the chat, the Q&A, and some of our panelists are typing answers in there as well. So please do take a look. Go ahead, Victoria.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope you're able to hear me and see me.
Yes, both.
Okay, great. So let me just try. I'm trying to get my screen up. I don't know if you're able to see it.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. So before I start, I'd just like to introduce myself. My name is Victoria Hepplethwaite. I'm a researcher at the Center for Research in Education and Labor at the University of the Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. So I should mention that I'll be presenting an ongoing project that we're currently working on, which has 2 phases. So the research phase, which we're about to complete, and then implementation phase based on what comes out of the research. So as I start, I'd like to emphasize that in the context of preparing people for a transition in labor market, as a TVET sector, we need to be aware of where the entry-level opportunities are, how young people can enter, and how young people can transition both vertically and horizontally within the labor market. And as we think about the preparation for TVET, we need to understand that transition. And we need to be able to see that our role is beyond preparing people for a single job, because these young people need to be able to enter at various points, and they need to be able to transition within the sector once they enter. And if we're not clear about those transition pathways and what those potential pathways are, we're going to be training young people for narrow jobs, which will restrict their labor market mobility. So that's why the issue of learning pathways and how young people can move and transition within the energy sector is an important issue when we think about the energy transition. So to put this into context, I would like to speak very quickly about this project. So it's in relation to learning pathways. So it focused on learning pathways in the context of a just energy transition in South Africa, with the objective of investigating the nature of learning pathways at intermediate level. So that's your certificates and diploma level, in order to understand the multi-entry and exit models for the emerging sectors, understand occupational progression, educational progression, and also understand the real transitions people are making as an important lens in constructing the nature of the learning pathways. So before we proceed, perhaps I can first touch on what is a learning pathway. So a learning pathway, simply put, refers to the different routes that people take to acquire a particular profession or occupation. So it encompasses training, experience, job progression, and so on. So looking at the image in front of you, for example, there are multiple routes that one can take to become a solar installer, say by teaching themselves or starting as an electrical or even mechanical engineer. And from this, we then realize that the complexity of these learning pathways and people's experiences and the challenges they encounter as they navigate through makes skills planning and anticipation problematic. So which brought about the need for us to dive into this learning pathways project. So the sectors we covered in this project included solar, wind, electric vehicles, energy efficiency, and battery storage. So a six-pronged approach was utilized as the methodology. So first looking at backcasting, so looking forward, and then taking steps back to determine how the vision we have can be achieved, then mapping of qualifications, then a learning pathway mapping, so plotting the various routes individuals can take into consideration of the multiple entry routes, then identification of enablers and constraints, identification of interventions to facilitate seamless entry and exit pathways within the transitioning sector. And then we also gathered real-life pathway stories where we spoke to about 30 people to understand how exactly they maneuvered through their various positions. So firstly, we found that career pathways are transforming mainly due to policy shifts. So with localization and technology enablement coming to the fore. Then secondly, we found that value chains are changing due to global demand shifting to more sustainable options. So for example, in the South African context, the shift of the global market to only importing electric vehicles by 2035 changes the operation of the automotive manufacturing sector. And then lastly, occupational changes over time. So for example, multi-skilling is becoming a prominent feature along with a combination of non-technical and technical skills. So all of this highlights areas to consider as we prepare the labor market for the transformation that we speak about. Then we found with regards to pathway enablers, that some of the key pathway enablers include foundational education in STEM, technical courses, and importantly, mentorship. So mentorship is a key issue that arose, especially in the pathway stories as we spoke to people to understand how exactly they progressed. So when I speak of mentorship, what comes to mind are the words of Sir Isaac Newton, who said, and I quote, "If I have seen further than others, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." So in this case, many of the individuals at intermediate level excel more by walking in the footsteps of and learning from those who have walked a similar path before them. Then with regards to key pathway constraints, the main ones that came about was lack of RPL programs. So that's the recognition of prior learning. And then also financial constraints, obviously. Then another key issue, especially at TVET level, is the slow progress in updating curriculum and qualifications, and a lack of necessary infrastructure and capacity at the TVET institutions. So we, for instance, went to one of the provinces in South Africa, the Northern Cape, and one of the towns which has a lot of solar plants and so on. But interestingly, the TVET institution there actually didn't offer any solar training. So those are some of the issues that we are dealing with here. So I should mention, though, that the enablers and constraints are the flip side of the same coin. So it all depends on conditions within the skill formation system. So that's your policy, your stakeholder responses, and so on. So with all of that being said, in closing, I would like to show this figure that emerged from the integrated qualification analysis across the renewable energy, energy efficiency, and the electric vehicles sector. So where it reflects that there are 11 common occupations among the key sectors that we were looking at. So for example, your electricians and engineering technicians, signifying that there is a great deal of overlap, and that due to the broadening of job requirements and clusters of jobs emerging, that broad-based qualifications are needed that can work across a variety of sectors while incorporating different key elements of the emerging energy sectors to ensure efficient transitioning of people employed within the energy sector, and subsequently foster a just transition where no one is left behind. So Currently, we have reached the phase where we're just finalizing the interventions. So hopefully in a few months' time, I'll be able to give a report on how the actual interventions are going. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And thank you for stepping in. That was a really great presentation. Okay, we are a few minutes over time, and so we apologize, but thank you so much to all of our wonderful speakers. We do have a few questions in the chat that our panelists have answered, and thank you very much. There are a couple other questions that are pertinent to a couple of the other webinars that we're holding as part of this series. And so we invite you to join us for that series. And if you do have questions, please do type them in there and we can use those for consideration moving forward as well. I would actually like to pass it over to Katarina Engel, who will give closing remarks, and we will close out our session.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Hello, everyone. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you all join us for this first webinar in our series. My name is Katarina Engel. I'm the BILT project manager at the BILT implementation partner, the Federal Institute for Vocational Education and Training, or simply BIBB. The skill I now have to bring to this webinar is to quickly do a closing. And if you feel as energized as I do now, and if you want to dive deeper into the topic of clean energy and TVET, I have 2 BILT resources for you to check out, and I just posted the relevant links in the chat. So first, I highly recommend browsing our innovation and learning practices on greening TVET on our BILT project website. One example is already posted in the chat. And this already brings me to the second highlight, the current BILT expert group that we have focused on TVET for the construction sector. And as we heard multiple times today, also from our bravest speaker, Gabriela, on the phone from UNEP, greening is a pivotal issue in the building and construction sector. And our goal with this BILT expert group is to identify innovative TVET policies and practices that seamlessly integrate TVET with renewable clean energies and energy efficiency. So if you are active in TVET for the construction sector, we would love to hear from you. And now let me conclude by thanking our expert speakers again. Thank you for your time and dedication. And of course, I would also like to thank our excellent moderator, Maureen, and a big thank you to the teams powering on behind the scenes at Niagara College, at UNESCO-UNEVOC and BIBB. And of course, mainly a huge thank you to you participants from across our international BILT network in Africa, Asia Pacific, Europe, and beyond. Your great questions and comments made our green hearts beat faster, and we will use all this input, as Maureen said, in the preparation for the next webinars. Before we wrap up, I have one last request. Immediately following this webinar, you will receive a short feedback survey, and please take a moment to fill it out because it really helps us to continuously improve our events. On behalf of myself, my colleagues, and our partners at Niagara College, thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you and your colleagues on 19th July for the next webinar in the BILT Clean Energy series. Stay up to date with our initiatives. Make sure to follow UNESCO-UNEVOC on social media and look for the BILT hashtag. Keep the green energy flowing, and thank you. See you next time.